Let me ask you a hard question about leadership and about being a man. What do you do with someone who is genuinely great at what he does, but who is also a serious problem? A man of enormous talent and enormous flaws, wrapped in the same skin. The weak answer is easy. You throw him away at the first mistake, wash your hands and call it standards. But the strong answer is much harder. And to understand it, let me tell you about a scandal in the Second World War that nearly ended one of America's greatest generals. The man in charge of the Allied effort was Dwight Eisenhower. One of his fiercest weapons was another American general, George Patton. Patton was, by many accounts, the finest attacking commander America had. When you needed someone to smash through an enemy line and drive forward without mercy, there was no one better. But Patton was also a loose cannon, hard-driving, hot-tempered, and utterly without patience for weakness. And in the summer of 1943, in Sicily, that temper detonated. Patton did not believe in what they then called battle fatigue. Today, we understand it as the deep wound that combat carves into a man's mind. Patton saw it as cowardice, plain and simple. And on 2 occasions, in the evacuation hospitals, he came across soldiers who had no visible wounds. Men broken not in the body, but in the mind. And Patton lost control. He berated them, he called them cowards. And he slapped them, in front of the medical staff, trying to shame them back to the front. Word of it spread like fire, and when it reached Eisenhower, he had a real crisis on his hands. Because striking your own wounded soldiers is not a small thing. It was a scandal that could, and many argued should, end Patton's career on the spot. The pressure to get rid of him was enormous. And it would have been the clean, righteous move. Cut the problem loose, make an example, protect the good name of the whole army. Everyone would have understood. But Eisenhower did something far harder and far wiser. He did not look away from what Patton had done, and he did not pretend it was acceptable. He came down on him. He reprimanded him hard. He ordered Patton to apologize, personally, to the men he had struck and to the medical staff who had watched. He made this proud, powerful general stand in his shame and own it. And he sidelined him, left him waiting, stripped of the command he desperately wanted. Eisenhower held him fully accountable. And yet, he refused to throw him away. In his own words, he was determined to save Patton for the great battles still facing them in Europe. He understood a truth a lesser man would have missed in the heat of the scandal. Punishing Patton was right, but destroying him would have been a waste of the whole war could not afford. Because when the fighting reached its most desperate hour, Eisenhower was going to need exactly the kind of ferocious, relentless commander that only Patton could be. And history proved him right. The very next year, Patton was unleashed across France. His army broke out and drove across that country at a speed that stunned the world, chewing through German forces and changing the shape of the war. The general who had nearly been discarded in disgrace became one of the great engines of the Allied victory. Eisenhower had disciplined the man without discarding the weapon. So what does a man take from this? First, learn to separate a man's flaws from his value. They live in the same person, but they are not the same thing. The lazy instinct is to see one serious flaw and write the whole man off, because judging is easy and it feels righteous. But the mature man holds 2 truths at once. This man did something wrong, And this man is still worth keeping. That is not weakness. That is judgment. And judgment is one of the rarest and most masculine things a man can develop. Second, understand that accountability and destruction are not the same. Eisenhower came down on Patton with real weight, but he aimed that weight at correcting the man, not annihilating him. A father knows this with his son. A good leader knows it with his men. You can demand the apology, enforce the standard, make a man carry the full weight of his mistake, and still leave him a path back. Correction is for building. Destruction is just for your own ego. And third, do not let your need to look righteous cost you what is valuable. It would have been easy for Eisenhower to cut Patton loose and be praised for his high standards. Instead, he took the harder road and absorbed the criticism of keeping a difficult man because he cared more about winning the war than about looking clean. The mature man is not ruled by how a decision makes him appear. He is ruled by what actually needs to be done. Now turn this on yourself, because you are going to make serious mistakes in this life. You are going to fail people and lose control and do things you are ashamed of. And when that day comes, you will pray that the men over you are the kind who discipline instead of discard, who hold you to account and then hand you a chance to become the man you are still capable of being. So, be that kind of man to the people around you. Because any fool can throw a flawed man away. It takes a real one to correct him and put his strength back to work. Discipline the man. Do not discard him.